Ranking Michael Jackson. What would have been his 60th birthday? Ranking Michael Jackson's #1 hits, in honor of what would have been his 60th birthday. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, has more #1 hits than most artists could ever dream of charting, combined. With 13 no. 1s, and one more to which he contributed vocals, Jackson leads the list of male artists with the most chart-topping hits. His catalog has both legendary breadth and depth, considering Jackson was the first artist to score #1 hits in the 1970s, 80s and 90s, and that during the 80s alone. At his creative peak, he earned 10 no. 1s, more than any other artist that decade. Yet for all his record-holding achievements, listeners may be surprised which of Jackson's singles hit #1 and which songs missed the top spot. Bonafide classics such as Thriller, Wanna Be Startin' Somethin', UYT, Pretty Young Thing, Got to Be There, Smooth Criminal and his Scream collaboration with sister Janet Jackson all failed to reach #1, while a good number of arguably lesser singles managed to reach the Billboard Hot 100's peak. In honor of what would have been Jackson's 60th birthday on August 29, revisit Jackson's 14 songs that reached #1, and judge for yourself which were the best, and worst, of his most popular songs. 1. Billie Jean, 1983. This ranking was, really, a race for #2, because no Jackson single can legitimately hold the #1 spot other than Billie Jean. From its iconic opening drum beats, the song marches in lockstep deeper into the paranoia-seized psyche of its young star. Not a single one of Quincy Jones' production flourishes as out of place, spanning rock and funk and disco and all anchored by a tortured performance by a 24-year-old Jackson that would remain his all-time career best. This ranking was, really, a race for #2, because no Jackson single can legitimately hold the #1 spot other than Billie Jean. From its iconic opening drum beats, the song marches in lockstep deeper into the paranoia-seized psyche of its young star. Not a single one of Quincy Jones' production flourishes as out of place, spanning rock and funk and disco and all anchored by a tortured performance by a 24-year-old Jackson that would remain his all-time career best. 2. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, 1979. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough is Jackson's first #1 hit that's not about a pet rat, and famously, the first song he claimed he wrote as a whole. And it's a stunner. 6 minutes of perfect pop music that courses with electricity from Jackson's opening howl. 3. Beat It, 1983. From Weird Al Yankovic's immortal Eat It to Fall Out Boy's considerably less immortal 2008 cover, there's a cartoonish aspect to Beat It that makes it prime for parody, or fools lesser artists into thinking they can appropriately do that track justice. Yet Beat It is a top-tier Jackson single because of how absurd, purposefully or otherwise, anyone else singing it sounds. Only Jackson can spit out the track's catchphrase and finesse lyrics like "showing how funky and strong is your fight" all over his showy Eddie Van Halen guitar line and make it all sound like a pop classic instead of an 80s fossil. 4. Man in the Mirror, 1988. A career-defining Jackson hit for its statement of self, from an artist with a notoriously conflicted relationship with his own image. Man in the Mirror is tragic in the way it foreshadows Jackson's struggles to come, and triumphant as a pop achievement in its own right. 5. Dirty Diana, 1988. Neither about Princess Diana nor Diana Ross, Jackson's most sinister #1 single, also from Bad, is also one of his best rock songs. The spiritual successor to Billie Jean is another groupie cautionary tale. Dirty Diana is a reminder that Jackson, whose legacy isn't exactly one as a sex symbol, could channel carnal danger just like the rest of his male pop star peers. 6. The Way You Make Me Feel, 1987. Sandwiched in the Bad album run of singles between the swaggering title track and the more profound Man in the Mirror, The Way You Make Me Feel is proof that, even almost 2 decades into his career, Jackson can make an earnest love song as pure as his original Jackson 5 recordings. 7. Black or White, 1991. Some parts of Jackson's racial unity and hold up less than flawlessly in the current cultural climate, with lines like "I'm not going to spend my life being a color that are probably in need of some unpacking. Yet black or white actually bangs." It's undeniably great guitar line, vaulting the song to the best of Jackson's 90s no. 1s. 8. Rock With You, 1980. A favorite from Jackson's fifth solo album, Off the Wall, the breezy Rock With You only scratches the surface of Jackson and Quincy Jones' collaborations to come. 9. Say 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 featuring Paul McCartney, 1983. Say 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 deserves an apology, or at the very least, a second listen, from every listener who writes off Jackson's collaborations with McCartney as less than the sum of the two artists' parts. Say 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 picks up the pace while splitting its verses in two, handing McCartney the earnest opening notes while letting Jackson wail away on his appropriately funky melodies. 10. Bad, 1987. With Bad, Jackson became the first and only male artist to chart 5 #1 hits from one album. Its title track is a testament to how formidable Jackson's singles catalog is, a perfectly strong track in its own right but one that barely cracks the top 10 of his own no. 1s. 11. You Are Not Alone, 1995. In a more just world, Jackson's final #1 hit wouldn't have been You Are Not Alone, an overly sentimental ballad that's more the style of its songwriter, R. Kelly. Considering Jackson recently charted in the top 10 with his unreleased vocals in Drake's Don't Matter to Me, there's still a possibility that another posthumous Jackson feature will replace it as his last charts-topping hit. 12. Ben, 1972. After becoming the youngest artist to collaborate on a #1 track with the Jackson 5's charts-topping hit I Want You Back, Jackson scored his first solo #1 with Ben 2 years later. Ben is an earnest ode to a pet rat, recorded for the 1972 horror movie of the same name and written by composer Walter Scharf of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory scoring fame. Like We Are the World, Ben is a Michael Jackson #1 single in name, but not in spirit. 13. I Just Can't Stop Loving You featuring Siedah Garrett, 1987. The first single from Jackson's Bad album is also its weakest one. There's nothing egregiously wrong with I Just Can't Stop Loving You, it's just that, when it comes to the many superior Jackson hits that missed the #1 spot, the song's inclusion on this list feels like a fluke. 14. We Are the World, 1985. Oi. Where to start with We Are the World, the biggest charity single of all time, which recruited 46 singers to contribute a few words each to raise funds to combat poverty in Africa. Co-written by Jackson and Lionel Richie, We Are the World may have raised more than $75 million for the USA for Africa organization, but it's less a real song than the star-studded and hopelessly overblown PSA and doesn't deserve to be counted as an official Michael Jackson #1.